Welcome to my tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to build a life-size replica Lego minifigure costume using materials that you can buy at your local Walmart. The primary material that you're going to use is sleeping bag camping mat made out of polyethylene foam. The primary tools that you will use to build this costume are a utility blade with a nice sharp edge, a metal straight edge to cut some nice crisp lines on a self-healing cutting mat to prevent any damage from your cutting surface. You also want a permanent marker to mark a few of your points, some scissors for some of your refined edges, some spray adhesive so that you can mount your trim patterns onto your polyethylene foam. And once all your pieces are put together, you're going to build your costume with hot glue.
Action?
Your foam comes pre-rolled. And once you undo it, it will still have a bit of a curve to it. However, if you lay it out overnight with some heavy flat items, you should get a nice flat surface ready for your trimming. You're going to want to use a little bit of spray adhesive to adhere your trim pattern down to your foam. All you need to do is give it a nice light coat so that you're not permanently gluing your paper to the foam, but just slightly sticking it to it so that it doesn't shift on you as you're trimming your foam. Once you have a nice even coat and it has a bit of a sticky tack to it, then you can go ahead and lay out your trim pattern. These Lego costume trim patterns are part of my written tutorial available on my Etsy page. Be sure to trim the perimeter of your pattern so that it fits squarely on your foam pad. Your foam pad may not have been cut perfectly square at the factory, so go ahead and take your T-square, align it up at the end, and trim off the very edge with your cutting blade and discard of the end. With the spray adhesive on your foam pad, go ahead and roll out your trim pattern and align the corner and the edge with the corner and the edge of your foam pad. Our trim pattern is now firmly in place on the foam pad. Use a straight metal edge to cut your straight lines in your trim pattern with your utility blade, pointing exactly 90 degrees to the surface of the trim pattern. You may want to cut a line thinly into the pad first to help you guide the rest of your cut as you cut completely through the foam. When you cut your curves, you can go ahead and freehand that cut. So now with my leg piece cut, I can go ahead and discard the pieces that I'm not using, as well as my trim pattern paper. Once all of your leg pieces are cut, you're going to begin to hot glue. Make sure that your hot glue gun is set on a low temperature if you have that option. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and glue my toe piece to the front of my foot. So I'm going to put a little bead of glue down the middle of the edge there, and then take the edge of the glue gun and kind of smear it around a bit, kind of giving it a good flat warm surface ready to put that toe on. Now be sure not to overdo your glue, because then you'll get ridges in your glue surface. You can go ahead and align your edges, pressing up against the edge of either side to make sure it's aligned. and then hold that in place while that glue hardens. Use your hot glue gun to go ahead and reinforce the inside seam with a nice thick bead of glue. On the outside edge, if you have any extra little gap there, you can go ahead and take a very small bead of glue, align down that seam edge, and then take the side of your glue gun to fill that gap. The cut edge of your foam has a porous surface, so what I like to do is use a little bead of glue along that edge, not too much, and then just go ahead and smear that into those pores to give a smoother edge. Once your costume is built and you start painting it, the paint is also going to help smooth the entire surface of your costume. Now once you've completed the seams to your Lego leg, you will notice that the curve that was in the original foam has now been straightened out with all your glued seams. I have one more piece that I need to glue here, so I'm going to go ahead and finish that off by gluing this edge first, this facing edge, and then I'm going to glue the top edge of it last to finish off the last bit of that foot. Now you'll notice that this edge right here of my toe isn't quite lined up straight. That's going to be okay because this foam is nice and pliable. I can go ahead and stretch it a little bit back and forth and manipulate it so I can get a nice smooth edge. With both sides finished so that they're nice and flush to the outsides of the legs, the last part that remains is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put a nice smooth layer of glue onto that top seam, and then again I'm going to go ahead and kind of reach in here and smooth it out. Line up my edges using my fingers on the inside too to help keep it nice and straight. Hold that down to adhere, and this one should stick pretty quick since it's mostly assembled. So what I'm going to do is finish everything up by reinforcing the seams on the inside that I just glued with a nice thick bead of glue along that interior edge. Now that this foot is finished, we're going to be ready to paint. To prep the Lego pieces for paint, I first use a rag and brush off any extra debris or even little hairs that come from the hot glue gun off of the Lego leg. Once you're happy that everything's nice and clean there, you have a couple options. You could either directly spray paint straight onto your Lego pieces, or if you want a little bit of a smoother surface, you can go ahead and apply a latex paint on there first. What I'm using here is just a cheap latex paint from Walmart. Another option that you could use sometimes is if you go by Home Depot, check the Oops paint. They'll sell paint that was mixed slightly the wrong tint for super cheap, usually like $9. That's about the same price as this gallon of interior latex paint. Make sure that you use a nice latex acrylic so you get that nice plastic surface on here. After a couple coats of Krylon Fusion paint, we have a nice brilliant color to our Lego piece. Once all of your Lego pieces are painted, then you can go ahead and use some nylon strapping and velcro to put the pieces together, and you're ready to try it on. Are you ready? Awesome! Because everything is awesome! Now remember to visit the link at the bottom of this page, and you can learn the full tutorial as well as get the trim patterns to build this exact Lego costume.